We start this hour with the ongoing Russia-Ukraine war, and the Russian Foreign Ministry has announced that work continues on a draft memorandum aimed at addressing key issues in the Ukraine conflict. This document is seen as a potential path towards diplomatic resolution. Here is what the Russian Foreign Ministry spokesperson has said.
Разработку проекта меморандума относительно будущего мирного договора с определением ряда позиций, таких как принципы урегулирования, сроки возможного заключения мирного соглашения, потенциальное прекращение огня на определенное время в случае достижения, подчеркну, соответствующих договоренностей. Как только меморандум будет подготовлен, я хочу отметить, что министр иностранных дел России Сергей Лавров буквально ежедневно комментирует ход его проработки. Он будет передан Киев. Рассчитываем, что украинская сторона ведет такую же работу и направит нам свои наработки одновременно с получением российского документа.
In other developments, Russia and the United States have made progress towards a prisoner swap, showing signs of cooperation amid tensions. On the sanctions front, Russia reiterated that Western measures will not break its will or hinder its strategic goals. The Foreign Ministry called sanctions counterproductive. Meanwhile, China's foreign ministry responded to reports claiming it supplies military plants to Russia. China denied these claims, stating it has never provided lethal weapons to any party in the conflict. This comes as Ukraine's Air Force reported that Russia launched 60 drones in an overnight attack. In response, the Russian Defense Ministry claimed that 99 Ukrainian drones were shot down during the same period. Russia has also warned that Finnish naval exercises are becoming tools for NATO escalation near the Russian border. Finally, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov criticised remarks made by German politician Friedrich Merz, calling them unhelpful to peace efforts. Well, we bring you now some breaking news in the ongoing Russia-Ukraine war. Russia has hinted at a second round of peace talks with Ukraine in Istanbul. Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said the Turkish city remains a very good location for direct negotiations. The proposal comes after talks with Turkish Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan in Moscow, marking a possible shift towards diplomacy amid the ongoing conflict. Let's listen in to what the Foreign Minister had to say.
Что касается второго раунда переговоров России и Украины, если вы спросите меня, я бы вновь обратился к нашим турецким друзьям в Стамбуле очень хорошо. Что касается второго раунда переговоров России и Украины, если вы спросите меня, я бы вновь обратился к нашим турецким друзьям в Стамбуле очень хорошо.
Well, several developments in the ongoing conflict, and joining us to discuss them is Martin Sá-Arrayes, an international affairs expert who's joining us from Quito in Ecuador. Martin, as always, thank you for joining us today. Let's first discuss this breaking news. Of course, those talks that happened in Istanbul in the middle of May have yet to be followed up, and Russia today hinting that further talks can take place in Turkey. What's the significance of this amidst the ongoing impasse at the war?
So I think Turkey wants to mediate between Russia and Ukraine. However, Turkey is the perfect place to mediate because, in one hand, Turkey is part of the NATO, which can be positive for Ukraine, but in the other hand, also the Turkish government is not a aggressive government towards Russia. However, I think the Russia's draft memorandum likely refers to diplomatic efforts or a proposal related to peace talks or conditions for negotiation. So I think it's not very likely to have a ceasefire in the near future, but I think if both parties come to the conclusion that it's impossible to win the war, they will definitely start talking about peace negotiations.
Yes, absolutely, Martin. And this comes, of course, as the Russian Foreign Ministry has spoken about a memorandum. But we do know, of course, that both sides in this war are looking at key points that they disagree on. How do you think the two sides can come to some compromise, given that they're so far apart currently in what they both desire in work towards a ceasefire?
Okay, so I think Russia's foreign minister claims it's working on a draft of the memorandum. However, it might be part of a broader narrative to appear open to diplomacy while continuing military operations. I think Zelensky is not willing right now to give up on all of the specific requests of Russia. They are not willing to give up on Crimea, on also other former Ukrainian territories. So I think there should be a huge necessity to peace or a huge threat into Ukraine so that the president of Ukraine can start thinking in negotiation. I don't think this will take place in the near future, but I think it's going to happen according to the next developing of the war. There's a lot of factors that can influence this development, such as China, which apparently is neutral but is still having a strong economical position favoring the Russian Federation.
Yes, let's look at some of the overnight military action that we've seen. Strikes reported from both sides, around 60 allegedly targeting Ukraine, around 100 targeting Russia. Given both sides are talking about peace, is the ongoing strikes detrimental to that happening?
Yeah, so I think right now we're seeing like a shift in world politics towards this war in Ukraine and Russia. Recently, Donald Trump is actually quitting his support towards Russia, and that's a good thing for Ukraine. I think these implications can be very positive for Ukraine and for its support, talking about the international community. So I think the next step is Ukraine getting stronger and Russia realizing that they're not going to be supported by the international community, and that's a good sign.
Let's look at that international support, Martin. To end this discussion, talks of a potential prisoner swap between Russia and the United States. Of course, since Donald Trump has assumed office for the second time, relationships between the two Cold War nations have eased, with discussions taking place with Steve Witkoff directly with Vladimir Putin. What role did the US have to play in these negotiations? Of course, in the midst of threats from the US administration that they would step away if no progress is made in the immediate term.
Absolutely. I think, of course, US as a superpower is absolutely meaningful for the development of these negotiations. I think Trump changed or shifted his strategy because of domestic policy. I think he got a lot of criticism within the US and within its partners around the world, and I think this is just a political move because he doesn't want to ruin his career, and I think he's gonna stop supporting Russia, and I think this is a very positive development. I think Ukraine will gain a lot of significant international support, and I think this will lead to a very meaningful negotiation with Russia, since Russia is going to realize they're not longer being neutral. I'm talking about Trump, that Trump wanted to be neutral between these two countries, but right now he's putting his side again to the natural partner of the US, which is Ukraine.
Martin Saar-Arayes, as always, thank you ever so much for providing your insight. We will, of course, be across all of the developments in the ongoing Russia-Ukraine conflict, specifically looking towards potential second rounds of talks between Russia and Ukraine. We move on now, though, and in a landmark move to navigate growing global uncertainty,